Who is Jeremy Jacquet and why have Liverpool just spent £60 million on him? Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you absolutely everything you need to know about Liverpool's latest signing. Alright, so for those totally unfamiliar with Jeremy Jacquet, here he is. He's 20 years old, obviously a centre-back who played for Stade Rennais in France. Will be joining Liverpool in the summer. He is 6'2", 1.88 metres, although let me tell you, this guy looks way bigger than that on the pitch, and you'll see that later in the video. He's a right-footed centre-back, predominantly plays in a back three for Stade Rennais. Again, we'll look at this later when we look at some potential setups for Liverpool, how he might line up with us. Predominantly plays in the middle of that back three when he plays in France. He's played 18 games so far this season for a total of 1,604 minutes. I've just put that on so you can see that the general level of experience this guy has. For me, guys, and I want you to keep this in mind throughout the video, if I was to compare him to players who you might be more familiar with, one of them, especially for Liverpool fans watching this video, will be very familiar with, is Joel Matip. He really reminds me of Joel Matip. He's got really long legs. He's very rangy in his movements. Sometimes looks a little bit awkward. It's very reminiscent of Joel Matip. But for me, the more accurate comparison, going back a little bit further, it actually really reminds me of Marcel Desailly. Keep that in mind as we look at the stats of this video and the clips later on. Marcel Desailly and Joel Matip. He's like a fusion of the two. So what I've put together here for you guys is a graph to show Jacquet's stats against Marc Guehi, someone we were obviously very linked to, both in summer and in January, and then Virgil van Dijk, who obviously plays for Liverpool and is still considered one of the best centre-backs in the league, if not in the world. So the stats on the screen, then I will talk through them in detail, but just to give you the general gist of what these are showing you, we're looking at defending and heading in this particular screenshot. This particular set of stats. We've got the per 90 stat, so how many of the particular stat each player performs per 90 minutes, and then the percentile that it puts them in amongst centre-backs in the Premier League. Let me make that clear. Jacquet's stats I have adjusted myself to be relative to where he would rank in the Premier League's centre-backs percentile. So if you go and look up his stats online, they might not say this type of thing. If you compare them to Ligue 1 players, compared to the Premier League, which is obviously where he'll be playing, I felt that was more relevant to show to you guys. So this is what we're going to look at here. I know there's a lot on the screen, but we'll talk you through it. So first of all, let's start with tackling. Jacquet, obviously 1.46 per game, which is actually the highest out of his peers, Guehi and Van Dijk here. As we know, Van Dijk, and it's the same for interceptions and blocks, doesn't really get involved in all that type of stuff very much. It's never been a strong point of Van Dijk's stats, where he's going to jump off the page at you for making loads of tackles, interceptions or blocks. He's a much more of an organisational defender. He doesn't, throw himself into tackles, throw himself into midfield to intercept the ball. He sort of stands and lets other things develop before he intervenes. So it's no surprise that his numbers are low. Guehi, more interceptions. Let's just look at those three as a whole. More interceptions, slightly less blocks than Jacquet. And you have to keep in mind here that Jacquet's stats, whilst I've adjusted the percentiles of the Premier League, these are stats recorded in Ligue 1. A very different style in Ligue 1, much more attacking style, much more open. And obviously playing for a different team, a different calibre of team than Guehi, whose stats were mostly all at Palace this season, and Van Dijk obviously at Liverpool. But what this does tell you is he's a very active defender, and you're going to see this a lot. Lots of tackles, lots of interceptions, lots of blocks. The blocks especially jump off compared to Guehi and Van Dijk at the page at you. Interceptions a little bit down compared to Guehi, but overall he's very aggressive. You're going to see this. He likes to get himself into challenges. He's a very proactive defender. Or let's just say he's a very active defender, let's put it that way. Whereas Van Dijk and Guehi, when it comes to maybe blocking shots, is more of a standoff sort of defend in a more passive manner. Jacquet is very aggressive and active in his method of defending. Now, looking at the aerial stats, this is where he really excels. And for me, this is a real key part of why Liverpool have bought him. These aerial stats are phenomenal, to be honest. Now, he only wins just over 2 aerial duels a game, which actually puts him in the 37th percentile for aerial duels. Marc Guehi, on the other hand, 63rd percentile, and Van Dijk, basically the best in the world, 4.96 per 90, almost 5 a game for 98th percentile in the Premier League. He's basically the best header of the ball in the league. That shows you that Jacquet isn't competing in as many duels. He's not winning as many because he's not competing in as many. That could be because Rennes have more defenders on the pitch. The style in Ligue 1 is not as many long balls. He doesn't have as many to compete in. Where you see the meatier part of this stat is in the duel won percentage in the air. Jacquet 76% for 94th percentile, only 1% behind Van Dijk, who's 77% for 95th percentile. So he's basically as good as Van Dijk in the air today, if you adjust those numbers to Premier League level. Guehi, who this is a criticism of his game, is only 67% win rate in the air for 81st percentile. So whilst he's not bad, he isn't elite by any means, and Jacquet comes in immediately on day one as an elite aerial player. And that's very key for a team like Liverpool, who have really struggled from set pieces, long throws, and the physical side of the game. You've got to keep all this in mind when you're considering this signing. Recoveries, again, we see 4.26 for Jacquet, which is very similar to Marc Guehi at 4.36 for 84th and 86th percentile, respectively. Van Dijk way down compared to them at only 2.17. These two are much more likely to make a ball recovery in a game than Van Dijk, and that's maybe stepping out into midfield to win it, maybe to sweep up as the ball goes over the top, things like that. I think playing in a back three helps this stat, and Van Dijk, like I've said already, doesn't really get involved in this type of defending. He's very different to Jacquet and Guehi in this aspect. But again, we see dribbled past, we see where this guy is very similar to Van Dijk and quite different to Marc Guehi. The amount of times he gets dribbled past in a game, 0.11 per 90. So 1 in every 10 games. That's kind of telling you there he's going to get dribbled past. 89th percentile, Van Dijk 0.04 for 91st percentile. Now Guehi gets dribbled past every 0.32 times per 90. 58th percentile. So he's actually quite poor in this regard. Jacquet is quick and, like I said, very, very long, very rangy. So he can often get tackles in, stick a foot out, not let players get around him, very strong. It's going to take a lot to get around him, and we're seeing that he's almost on the Van Dijk level in this this particular aspect. Clearances, he's very similar to Guehi now, 4.77 per game, 33rd percentile. Guehi, 5.05, 35th percentile. If you think of Palace defending, they like to absorb a lot of pressure, and obviously they're then going to clear the ball. They're not really a side who want to build up and get onto it. So I think that skews Guehi's stats a little bit there. Van Dijk, 7.75 clearances per game, 94th percentile. I mean, that's how Van Dijk defends. You think of balls coming into the box, he's heading it away, he's clearing it, he's sweeping it away. That's Van Dijk through and through. And Jacquet definitely has some growth to do in this regard. And I want to make it clear in this video, guys, yes, I'm a Liverpool fan, of course, but I'm not here to tell you that Jeremy Jacquet is going to be the next best defender in the world. I'm not here to tell you that he's already the best defender in the world. I'm also not here to tell you that this signing is going to be a flop. I'm here to simply look at the data and tell you what I interpret it as, and therefore hopefully pass on some of that information to you that then you can then use. What I'm saying here is maybe this could be down to, again, the league, the style of play, why his numbers are not maybe in the Van Dijk level, they're more similar to Guehi's numbers. But maybe this is an area where he can work on his positional sense, where to position himself in the box, and I'm sure Van Dijk will be able to help him with that. And another one where maybe he could work on is fouls committed per 90. Jacquet over 1.1 a game, 77th percentile. That's bad. And then Guehi, 0.64. Van Dijk barely ever makes a foul, 0.38 for only 19th percentile. Jacquet makes a lot of fouls. That's clear from the data. This is, again, due to his really aggressive nature. He's obviously a young centre-back, so I feel like sometimes they can get a bit excited, a bit, they want to be really dominant and really impose themselves on a game, so they get a bit rash at times. He does go to ground quite a lot, so that also can lead to fouls, things like that. So something to work on. Again, at Liverpool, I'm sure this will go down just from the fact that we're a more ball dominant side than most teams in the world. They don't have many opportunities to make fouls as a defender for Liverpool. And I think as he gets older and more experienced, maybe with an extra added positional sense, that could come down as well. But when you look at this data, it's very interesting for me because there are certain aspects where he's very similar to Van Dijk. So you look at the aerial duels and the dribble pass numbers, that's very, very similar to Van Dijk. And I'm putting myself here in the mindset of a Liverpool data analyst who's maybe looking at a new centre-back to sign. Now, obviously, we wanted to sign Marc Guehi. And when you look, aside from those aerial duels and the dribble pass numbers, it's actually very, very similar to Guehi's data, I think, anyway. You see the tackles, the blocks, the interceptions, they're not too far off one another. The recoveries, very, very similar. Clearances, very, very similar. The only places that he's a little bit different is the dribble pass numbers and the aerial duel win percentage, where he's much better than Marc Guehi. Something to keep an eye on if you're a Liverpool data analyst. Right, so now we're going to move on to possession for the same three players. We're going to look now at how Jacquet fares on the ball compared to Guehi and Van Dijk. So looking at duels won, so 4.4 per 90 for Jeremy Jacquet, 5.23 for Guehi, 6.17 for Virgil van Dijk. So Jacquet, the lowest of the three there, not winning as many duels per 90 minutes. But the duel win percentage, he's actually second best at 67% for 79th percentile. Very similar to Marc Guehi, who is 65% for 77th percentile, and Van Dijk 77% for 97th percentile. He is still the best when it comes to this type of stat for centre-backs. He's the benchmark that players are trying to reach. The reason why I say this is a very good, promising sign, again, for Jacquet is that whilst he's not winning as many duels per 90 as Guehi or Van Dijk, the winning percentage is very, very high. This is certainly something that can translate to the Premier League, a more physical league, and that's, I think, why Guehi and Van Dijk just naturally compete in more duels and therefore win more per game. But the winning percentage for Jacquet is really, really promising, as are the passing numbers. Successful passes per game, 53 a game for Jacquet, 49 for Guehi, and 71 for Virgil van Dijk. Now, this, for me, is a very team-driven stat. So you think Marc Guehi played most of his season for Palace, so that's why maybe you only see 50 successful passes. I imagine by the end of the season, when he's been playing for City, this stat is going to be much higher, more in the Van Dijk range, who's at 71 a game, although I do think he, again, 91st percentile is the benchmark for centre-backs. Jacquet makes a lot of passes, though, again, in the back three. A very pass-heavy league, though, so he's certainly got the ability to get on the ball, and it's these successful passing and the long passing stats where he really jumps off the page at you. 91% of his passes are successful, actually a better percentage than both Guehi and Van Dijk, ranking him 85th percentile in the league, even more than Van Dijk's 90% of successful passes for only 80th percentile. So he's top level. And it's not just short, safe passes, it's accurate long passes as well. 2.92 a game. So Van Dijk, you think of those big diags, he's the best. Again, 4.17 long passes a game for 94th percentile. 51% of those are accurate for 86th percentile. He's the best long passing centre-back still in the league. The data tells you as such. When you look at Guehi for accurate long passes, he gets 2.45 accurate long passes per game, but only at a success rate of around 40%, which ranks him 36th percentile in this stat. So he really actually isn't a great long passer of the ball. Jacquet, on the other hand, is a phenomenal long passer of the ball. So 2.92 accurate per game, 78th percentile, but 54% of those long passes that he attempts are successful for 93rd percentile. It's even better than Virgil van Dijk's. He is really, really good in his long passing range. Very promising sign, again, if you think of long-term Liverpool Van Dijk successes. You think of the struggles we've had with Konate on the ball so far this season. Really promising signs in the data here for Jacquet again. Dribbling-wise, though, I do think this is somewhere maybe he could improve. Now, he makes more successful dribbles per game at 0.22 than Guehi at 0.09 and Van Dijk at 0.08. He's actually 63rd percentile. He's quite high in successful dribbles. but his successful dribble percentage is only 50%, which puts him 33rd percentile. Guehi 30th percentile, and Van Dijk actually hasn't completed an unsuccessful dribble so far this season. He's actually 100% for 99th percentile, so I wouldn't take that stat too seriously for Van Dijk. But the reason why I say Jacquet could improve here is for the amount of dribbles he's making in a game. He's only successful in 50% of them. Maybe this is where his young, inexperienced nature of the right place to dribble, maybe some overconfidence comes in. Maybe this is something he can work on as well. He gets a lot of touches, 71, almost 72 a game for 61st percentile. Very, very similar to Marc Guehi at 71 a game. Van Dijk, again, loads and loads of touches. Liverpool very, very ball dominant. Van Dijk the centre of a lot of that ball possession. 92 a game for 92nd percentile. He's the top in this stat again. Van Dijk, I mean, across the board here, absolutely unbelievable. But Jacquet, when you look at this data, again, this is adjusted to be Premier League level compared to Premier League centre-backs, not League and centre-backs for percentile stats. Actually fares more favourably than Marc Guehi. Which is very, very interesting when you look at these. I'm not skewing data here. This is just raw data. I'll let you make your own opinions. I'm not saying Jeremy Jacquet is better than Marc Guehi. I'm just pointing out what the data tells me. All right, and we'll finish this stat-heavy section of the video with a quick look at the goal threat of Jacquet against Guehi and Van Dijk. So Guehi probably has the most goal threat of most centre-backs in the Premier League this season, especially. He's managed to find himself on the end of a lot of chances, especially for Palace, very set-piece heavy team. And we know Van Dijk's strengths from corners. So Jacquet, when you're looking at chances created, this is very interesting. 0.5 chances created a game. So this guy makes a chance one every 2 games. 85th percentile. Very interesting stat. Now that could be a bit of luck, but he's certainly getting himself in there, maybe as a creative pass in his locker. Guehi 0.45, very similar, and Van Dijk not really doing a lot of this, 0.29. Still decent though at 60th percentile. In terms of XG, Jacquet 0.06, Guehi 0.12, which is very, very high, 96th percentile, and Van Dijk 0.05. So Jacquet very similar XG per game to Virgil van Dijk. So if you think of the goal threat from corners, Guehi gets a lot of his XG from chances with his feet more often. Van Dijk's are almost exclusively from his head. Jacquet very similar. So similar numbers there. Maybe that could be something we use as a weapon from a corner. Jacquet also has very similar shots to Van Dijk, 0.62, Van Dijk 0.63 per 90. Guehi almost won a game for 89th percentile. You see he gets himself in attacking areas more often than Jacquet and Van Dijk. He's also better at shots on target. Marc Guehi at 0.23, Van Dijk 0.21, Jacquet 0.17. This is more accuracy with the head. I would say you got to try and get those headers on target. Of course, not always easy. 1 in every 5 goes on target for all 3 of these players. Really, not much difference there in the data. And the touches in the opposition box. Very interesting. Jacquet's way, way down compared to Marc Guehi's at 1.91. Again, big goal threat for Guehi, 83rd percentile. Van Dijk 1.54. He does tend to get on the end of a lot of set pieces if they don't end up going towards the goal. 1.54 per game. But Jacquet only 0.67. Only gets a touch, roughly 1 in every 2 games, slightly more than that. So maybe he's not getting on the end of crosses. Maybe this is, again, a positional thing. Maybe this is an ability to sniff out chances from a corner. Maybe in Ligue 1, again, the corners are not so much of a focal point as they are in the Premier League to help get those touches up. You know, think of set pieces always coming into the box in the Premier League. Could that go up? Maybe, but could also be something to work on. So we've talked a lot about stats there. Let's actually go and look at some clips of Jeremy Jacquet playing, and I'm going to talk you through them and basically give you my thoughts on what we're seeing. All right, so we're going to watch a little bit of a compilation here of Jacquet. Now, obviously, you can all go and do this yourselves on YouTube. I'm going to talk you through what I see when I watch this particular video. We're not going to watch the whole thing because it is quite long, but I will let it play. I'll pause every now and then to give you some thoughts if it's going too quick. But let's just watch and I'll tell you what I see. So here we go. Jeremy Jacquet highlights. So here he is coming across. One of the first things I'll always look at when I watch these is, can they run? And you'll see how long and rangy he is. There he shows you the strength. You'll notice that the legs on this guy, they are just huge. And here he's going to show you the pace. Can he run? Yes, he can. Slide and challenge. Excellent tackle. Really, really good. In the middle there, can he cut out crosses? Likes to go to ground a lot. That's something I notice. Stepping out into the middle. This is his aggressiveness. Uses his body around the attacker, wins the ball back. Here he comes again, stepping into the middle. Aggressive, making tackles, using every inch of his frame. This is very Marcel Desailly-like. Now on the ball, receiving it in the middle. On the half turn, dribbles away from defenders, takes the ball confidently, little ball rolls. He's got that confidence in his game. Now he's showing you the passing range. Long balls, very accurate. Good technique on those. Really swipes across them well. And then also that inside of the foot, curling long balls. First time into the channel. Got a good passing range. Really interesting stuff to see. Again, that sort of floated one that we see Van Dijk do quite a lot. Showing you a lot of his passing range there early on in this video. We're going to see him go to ground quite a lot. Again, there he is again going to ground. He does like to do that. That's a tendency of his game. Here he is again showing you the speed, keeps up with the attacker, uses his strength, and then able to have the composure to play as well. Running back, recovery challenges, makes a good challenge there. Just worry about him being a little bit rash at times. That could get him caught out in the Premier League, but you see the aggressiveness, the activeness in his defending. Again here, really stepping in, really aggressive. This guy in a man-to-man defensive system is an animal, to be honest. He just loves to make a challenge, be, really dynamic in his play, coming across, jumping, making challenges, loves a duel. When he gets the ball, he wants to use it as well. How is he in the air, clearing the ball? He's going to step in again. Think of Gabriel for Arsenal, Saliba for Arsenal this season. They do this a lot. Really step in, coming across, sweeping up. This is reading the game. Goes to ground, cuts it out again. Goes to ground for me a little bit too much, but the signs are all there of a really solid player. There's a header. Now, not the best goalkeeping on this one, but there's the goal threat. How is his 1v1? Perfect, does enough, stands up. And listen, guys, compilations can show you absolutely any player is good. So we're not going to take this, for gospel, but certainly there's a lot of attributes here that you can see this fella has. And in a second, we'll watch a different video of him playing in just one game, which I think gives you a more accurate representation of a player and how they actually might translate to your team. But again, we're seeing the composure here. Look at this one. I love this one. Little ball roll. Shows you the dribbling ability. Shows you the ability on the ball. And then the next clip. He just looks so big, doesn't he, on the pitch? He looks so imposing. He's able to cut out crosses with, every inch of his body, covering the penalty area seemingly. He gets around players a lot when they're trying to shield the ball because his legs are just so long, like Joel Matip. He can just reach around defenders. I love that one there. Let's just go and watch that one again very quickly because I do love this clip. The way he's able to receive the ball, not an easy ball, receives it under a little bit of pressure. Think of Konate doing this. Would he have the ability to do so? I'm not sure. Receives it, makes a little turn, really confident on the ball, and then finds a lovely ball over the top. I mean, it's really, really top level. More dribbling, confidence, stepping into midfield. He has quoted in the past that he doesn't mind playing DM. So that's maybe where he gets the confidence on the ball from. Again, here we're seeing him just dribble past players outside the foot. He's got loads of different techniques when he's on the ball. They're things I notice watching this. I'm not necessarily looking for the actions of what he's doing all the time. It's just what does he have in his locker? What can he bring, ability-wise? It's not just data. It's also a little bit about eye test. Little clipped balls over the top. You see he's got that vision maybe in his game, stepping out into the middle there with the ball, clips the ball into midfield. Really confident stuff. More of the same here, clipping balls up to the striker. Think of Ekitike, think of Isak benefiting from balls like that for Liverpool. On the wing, no problem. He backs his pace here. Again, slide tackles, we're seeing a lot of that, aren't we? Does like to do that. I've said that many times, but what we've seen so far, obviously this is only going to show you the good parts, wins the ball a lot from those slide tackles, and we saw it in the data. A lot of tackles made per game, a lot of duels won per game. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, just a part of his game. Very aggressive, always wants to win challenges, win the ball back. In the air, competing, he's going to win those most of the time. Balls coming into the box, just dominant, heading it away. and wants to always step forward. You see him in the middle of that back line a lot, using his strength there. Really good defending, just really calm, strong defending. He's strong for his age at 20 years old. Centre-backs can sometimes be a little bit weak. This is where I see the Marcel Desailly in him. He's just super powerful, uses his frame to his advantage, doesn't look too awkward, which I think tall players can sometimes look a bit strange when they're on the ball. For me, he looks really natural, and that's sort of think of the French centre-backs that are coming through in today's day and age, or even just a few years prior, like Raphael Varane, William Saliba. There's been a lot of great ones over the years, of course. Jacquet fits that mould, just looks really confident, really smooth on the ball. Recovery pace here, what can he do? Just pokes it out for a corner, good decision, which is another big part of being a centre-back, the decision making. Can you make the right decisions, know when to play, know when to step in, really aggressive, steps in, wins the ball back. It's a really impressive part of his game, and he does that for me. It's Van Dijk-esque, it's Joel Matip-esque, it's Marcel Desailly-esque. Defensively from corners, winning headers, overtime, crosses coming into the box, headers again, wants to get his head on the ball, not afraid of those challenges. A very, very active defender. So we've watched quite a lot of this here showing his best moments. Let's go and watch some clips of him just playing in one game against Marseille. Well, I think for me, you can get a better gist of the type of player he might be getting. It's not just all of his highlights. So let's go and do that now. All right, so this is Jacquet against Marseille. So this is going to show all of his actions in one game against Marseille. And the reason why I like these type of videos is because it's not just highlights, it's what he actually did in a full game. So let's just have a little look through and watch this one together. So here he is on the ball. He's the middle centre-back again. Nice ball out wide using his vision. I love this bit. Into the middle, confident on the ball. Under pressure a little bit. Again, in the middle of the pitch. This is more like a midfielder level position. Now, tries a little bit of an ambitious pass. Doesn't come off. Wins it back. Plays it. Keeps the ball. First time, sweeping the ball out wide. Playing quick. This is, with the French league, often translates well to signings coming into the Premier League because of the pace of play. Whilst it maybe isn't the same level as the Premier League in terms of quality, the pace of play usually translates well, especially for defenders. You think of a young Saliba coming over to Arsenal. Just normal stuff here, knocking the ball around under a bit of pressure, gets the ball out wide, nothing crazy. He's actually off the screen now, just giving the ball back to his goalkeeper. But you see, Rene always trust him to be the one sort of building the attacks. In the middle of that back three is a position that's a real leadership level position. It needs a lot of organisation, takes a lot of responsibility to get on the ball, get playing for your team, and really command the back line. You see they're winning headers, playing the ball into midfield, and no real pressure here from Marseille. I mean, we just played Marseille and we saw what they were like. Looking for balls over the top, nice passes out wide. But you see, he's always tending to be the one who's moving the play forward. Lots of progressive passes. Again, balls into midfield. Here he is on the ball. Can he run past a defender? Yes, he can. And Rene link up well. Stepping out, look, confidence, but maybe that's where I talked about the dribbling stats. Maybe something to work on. That was an example right there of maybe not dribbling in quite the right area. Loses the ball. Sweeps the ball out wide in one touch again. I really love that about his game. He's able to move the ball quickly, dribble in past attackers and striding forward. This is the Joel Matip in his game. Okay, he loses the ball on the pass, but striding forward into midfield. This is really, really Joel Matip-esque. Lovely ball out wide. The technique he's got on those is really good. It looks really natural, really smooth. Strikes the ball cleanly. And we've seen already different techniques, not just the laces through the ball, the diag. We've seen the instep curling the ball out wide, but he's so confident with that lace switch technique that we see Van Dijk do so much. In general, he's just a confident player. Look, everything's one touch with him, or not everything, but a lot of things are one touch. Move the ball around the corner. Got a good football IQ. He knows here, bursting again past attackers, moving the ball into midfield. It's Joel Matip. If you can't see Joel Matip in this guy, I really don't know if you'll ever see Joel Matip again. And Joel Matip was an absolute legend for Liverpool, a very underrated centre-back in his time by other fans, but Liverpool fans adored him and knew how good he was. And if Jacquet reaches that level, but stays fit, I think we can all say that the £60 million will be well worth the spend. A bit of defending here, really aggressive again, putting his body in, forcing Marseille back. A lot of this game has really showed off his passing range. But again, defending really strong, gets his body in the way, doesn't make the foul, wins the ball back for his team. I like looking at these type of videos, you know, just watching the full clip of a player playing a game. There's not all that long left in this one now, so let's see it through to the end. These passes are quite easy, you know, just playing the ball into midfield, but it's always looking to pass the ball forwards. So he rarely wants to go back to his goalkeeper, and he's got different ways of doing it. He can play the easy one into the middle, or he can clip the ball into the strikers, as we've seen. 1v1, last man back there, really calm. Look at the first touch there. I mean, that's excellent. That's just technique. Canate in that situation, you'd be really worried. He doesn't quite have the technique that Jacquet does. Ball coming into the air, and he's able to pluck it out. I mean, again, there shows you the first touch. And they actually lose this game, by the way, quite badly, but he's still able to have a good game, especially on the ball. And we've not seen any examples. This is a reaction from the game of where he's been, you know, involved in a sort of a defensive action that's gone wrong. Really smart decision there. Back to the goalkeeper, out wide, and that is that. All right, so final part of this video, we've looked at the stats, we've looked at some clips. Now we're going to look at how does he actually fit at Liverpool. So on the board here, I have drawn what I think, could be a setup for Liverpool next year. I've not accounted for any more new signings. I'm hoping that we'll have some new wingers, maybe a few other new players, who knows. But I've just put him in with the players we've got now. So if we were to set up in a way that we often set up this season in the 4-3-3, obviously Jacquet for me just slots in at this right centre-back next to Van Dijk. Now, we've seen him play in the back three. We'll talk about that in a second. But this is a very easy way to slot him in. He goes next to Van Dijk. He just basically becomes Canate. That doesn't necessarily have to mean Canate leaves. If we end up next season with Van Dijk, Canate, Jacquet and Leone as our back four, I don't know if Gomez will be here. I don't think that's necessarily a bad looking back four at all, but he can obviously slot in here. He can link up, you know, imagine him playing the balls out wide, as we've seen, getting the ball into midfield. You can imagine him playing those passes we've watched into Vert, into Ekitike, these ones around the corner, into the channels to a running Hugo Ekitike. So that's one option, the 4-3-3. Another option, and perhaps needs a bit more to happen to get to this point, but is if we actually end up in a back three. So perhaps if Xabi Alonso was to come to the club and we end up in a back three, let's move Canate in and let's take Gakpo off. Let's also take Salah off and let's bring in Alexander Isak. For now, let's do that. So how would that look then? Well, you could say Van Dijk becomes the middle centre-back, Jacquet maybe goes to the left, and Canate into the right-hand side. You got Kirkes as your left wing-back, Frimpong as your right wing-back. You got your two strikers of Ekitike and Isak versus your number 10, and you have Szoboszlai and Gravenberch ahead of them. And on paper, you can't tell me this team doesn't look tasty. It really, really does. This is an more Alonso-friendly system. I don't think Slot, if he's here next year, will play a back three under any circumstances, really. And you could say maybe Jacquet plays this position. Van Dijk sticks to playing the left centre-back that he's always played for us. Even in a back three, he might end up still wanting to play there. This would work too. He's obviously played here for Rennes. Again, we could see him on the ball. Let's give him the ball, spraying balls out wide to both wing-backs who Kirkes and Frimpong will be very suited to that, and obviously having the midfielders in front of him to link up with. That's option number 2. Option number 3 for me is a diamond. So let's take Canate back out of the team. Jacquet comes over to this right hand side. Van Dijk moves over, and then we go back to the back four, and we enter the diamond. So McAllister has been playing the point of the diamond defensively versus the point offensively, and this is how we've been playing at times. He could obviously play in this. This isn't necessarily different in Jacquet's perspective as the 4-3-3 that I showed you at the start, but it's certainly a situation where he could fit in. With Leone, long term, maybe being his partner, I think they complement each other really, really well. I think either of them can play either side of this back two. I don't see a reason why they wouldn't pair well together as a partnership. Alright guys, that's going to do it for today's video. I really do hope that you did enjoy it today. Taking a look at Jeremy Jacquet and everything you needed to know about that signing. I hope you come away from this video feeling like you know him as though he's your family member nowadays. I really do hope you did enjoy it, and if you did enjoy it, please do click that like button. We're trying to get to 30 likes on all the videos. We've been hitting it no problem recently, so if you can help me get to that 30 like mark again, that'll be amazing. And if you are new around here and you learned something today or you did enjoy the video, please do click subscribe. We're trying to get to 500 subscribers, so if you can help me get there, that would be amazing. Thank you very much. Podcast listeners, I hope you enjoyed as well. Obviously, 5-star rating and reviews, follow the show, all that good stuff. And if you do watch on YouTube, sorry, and you haven't gone over to Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever else you consume your podcasts to actually follow the show, please do go and do so, even if you never actually listen on there, because it helps get the show out to more people on those platforms. It's just a golden sky, of course, on those platforms as well. Link is in the description. So, guys, I'll be back on Friday for a match preview for Manchester City. It's going to be a big one. I'm looking forward to it. We obviously won't get Jacquet until the summer, but I hope this video got you excited for him. I certainly am excited. He's one of the biggest centre-back prospects in the world at the minute, and that's why we've bought him for such a big fee for a defender. He's Joel Matip mixed with Marcel Desailly in my eyes. I'll be back on Friday, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Speak to you all soon. Goodbye.